everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here with you. Tuesday, May 27th, 2014. Hope you had a memorable Memorial Day weekend, a memorable Memorial Day weekend. I certainly did. Had some very interesting things happen to me this weekend, which I'm going to be talking about here in just a few seconds while we are waiting for our very special guest to arrive. So, was at a wedding this weekend. It was a fantastic event. Thank you very much. We had a very nice time. Not my wedding. That's coming up. But it was a wedding of a relative, and lots of people there, festivities and music and dancing, and it was a good time all around. It's really nice to celebrate moments in life. I don't think we get enough of that in our busy day-to-day lives, unless, of course, you're a longevity distributor. And then your day-to-day work becomes, in fact, somewhat of a celebration, because what are you doing as you're building your longevity business? You are celebrating life. You are helping people to optimize the structure and function of their physical body while you are helping them to optimize their finances as well. And that's like the 1-2 punch. That's like the secret sauce. That's like the never-fail fudge. It just is a good idea. There's nothing wrong with this whatsoever. And as people are often amazed to see, the longevity business is much simpler and much easier to make into a success than you would otherwise think. In any event, we're celebrating this weekend, and between songs, I was outside cooling off, and a friend of the family's came up, and there were 3 or 4 of us speaking around a table. This guy was an academician. I believe he was a retired college chemistry professor or something like that. And he just told me that he had bypass surgery, right? Bypass surgery. Now, he didn't know anything about what naturopathy was, didn't even know that the profession existed. And before he walked up to the table, I was talking to the other people who were there about what it was that I did. You know, I didn't start the conversation, they did, and they were really fascinated by the whole concept of holistic medicine, and they were, halfway on board with it. At least they had open minds to it. But then this guy came over, and after he listened to me explain what my profession was about and what it was that I did for a living, he looked at me and he said, I just don't buy it. I said, well, I don't know what it is that you think I'm selling. I'm not selling anything. I'm just telling you what my profession is and what we do, and that there is, in fact, a profession, a fully licensed and regulated medical profession in the United States that delivers alternatives to drugs and surgery. And he said, well, if that were the case, then why aren't you, he said, if your therapeutics were as good as you're saying that they are, why aren't you teaching at Rush? Why aren't you on board with, which is a big hospital in Chicago? Why aren't you, giving lectures at the nutrition center in the hospital that I just had my surgery at? And I kind of looked at him with my jaw open, and it was an aha moment for me. Because we've been so far out in front of the curve here for so long. We have been so far out in front of the curve that I get used to talking to people who are open-minded. The people that call into this show are open-minded. I don't think I've gotten one heckler call in 2.5 years of doing the radio show. I don't think I've gotten one heckle call. People call up here because they're already frustrated with conventional medicine, and they're smart enough to understand that I represent a profession that's licensed and regulated, right? And the medical school that I went to was a fully accredited medical school that passed muster from the same academic accreditation board that Harvard University did. And this is a good thing. But this was really kind of a mind twister for me. It was almost as if I'd entered into a time machine and I was transported, back into the dark ages. Because he just couldn't accept the notion that there did in fact exist alternatives to drugs and surgery that were developed and delivered by licensed and regulated physicians. And he just couldn't accept the fact that there were other people other than MDs who could legitimately, accurately, and professionally refer to themselves as doctors. I think it kind of twisted his mind up into a little bunch. And, rather than just think about it and ponder it and sit with it, his immediate knee-jerk reaction was, no, I just don't buy it. I can't buy it. I can't believe this. I don't buy this. Which is, a passive-aggressive way of saying, look, you're just a quack. It would have actually been better had he come out and said, you're just a quack, because at least that would have been, the manly thing to do. But people never do that, because most people who are closed-minded are cowards. They're cowards, and they're working their way through life based out of fear, right?
Have your guests connected?
Yeah, thank you very much. Working their way through life out of fear. And this is the thing. I understood. It stood out to me in bold face, all of a sudden, that there still do exist in the world numbers, hordes, crores, millions of people who are completely in the dark about what we do. Right? And it's like that time when my colleagues are trying to get naturopathic medicine licensed in the South, and I honestly can't remember which state it was. It was Louisiana, maybe Georgia, maybe South Carolina, maybe Kentucky, I can't remember. The bill was on the governor's desk, and the representatives went in there to talk to the governor about what we were doing, and the governor looked down at the desk, and he saw, the naturopathic bill, and he said, naturopaths, we don't need hiking trails, we need jobs. And this was 25 years ago, when arguably you could say, well, that's understandable because it's a brand new profession in the political sphere. I mean, this profession's older than the hills and twice as dusty. But from the political perspective, it's a brand new. We're the new kid on the block, and I can understand 20 years ago how people would not even have heard about it. But at this day and age, for people to have not even heard about it, I mean, that's a great big mind twister for me. And so for a singular moment in time, my head was spinning counterclockwise on its cerebrospinal axis, and I really had to pause and take a breath and just remember that, when you don't take things personally, life gets a whole lot easier. Because regardless of what this gentleman believes, or regardless of what anybody else believes, the truth will out. I mean, even if you don't know anything about mathematics, 2 + 2 is still 4, because that's just the way it is. Back in caveman days, before they knew anything about quantum physics, when you separate atoms with enough force, you get a nuclear explosion, right? There are things in nature which are just so. There are things that are in step with the truth of the things. And, once you've experienced the truth, you're in its velvet grasp forever. And I feel very fortunate to be a member of Longevity Nation, to be able to stand up in front of Longevity Nation and talk about the things that we talk about here all of the time, because Longevity Nation is populated with people who are of the same mindset. And this is a very interesting sociological phenomenon, because people in Longevity Nation represent every single race, every single creed, every single color, every single political persuasion on the planet. It reminded me, a couple of weeks ago I was watching that movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis, right, when they had to fly to took the space shuttle up to the asteroid to try to blow it in half before it slammed into the Earth and killed everybody. Well, for that moment in time, everybody on the planet was united in a common goal. And age, race, creed, color, nationality, political persuasion meant nothing. And that's what Longevity Nation is like all of the time. It's a profound experience to work and walk inside of Longevity Nation, to deal with people On a professional level, and also, it gets personal because this is a personal business. We're not just businessmen and women selling things, and that's all that there is. It's not like that. There's a personal aspect to this. There's also a business professional aspect to it, and both of those are built on the foundation of a common understanding. And what's the common understanding? Number one, your MD does not know what's best for you. Your MD only knows what they've been trained in, and what they've been trained in is a very small piece of the pie of medical science. Number two, the human body has a God-given ability to fix itself. The human body is endowed with a spiritual intelligence which takes care of business. And it is our job inside of Longevity Nation to learn the simple steps necessary to be taken to support and promote the body's natural God-given ability to fix itself, and then to tell as many people in our lives as we can about it, because why on earth would you keep that a secret? Why would you choose to be a secret agent when you know what you can do to help your brother, your sister, your pastor, your husband, your wife sleep through the night and be in less pain? Support and promote the structure and function of their bones, their joints, their sugar metabolism. Why would you not spread that word? Well, guess what? There are thousands of people in Longevity Nation that feel exactly the same way that you do about that. And when you become a Longevity associate, when you become a Longevity member, all of a sudden you start to hang out with those people. And it makes a great deal of difference. It's one of the perks of Longevity Nation that is really unquantifiable, but it wraps the whole thing up into almost a perfect package. What are you waiting for, folks? Join Longevity Nation now. drglidden.com. Stick around an hour or two. A very special guest coming up. Don't even think about touching that dial. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health. Thanking you for tuning in today and every day from 3 to 5 Central Time for a healthy dose of reality. If you're a caller, you're going to have to put your call on hold. You can just remain on the line for the rest of the first hour. I have the great privilege of talking to a very special guest that we have here. This is one of the good things about being, another of the good things from my point of view, about being a member of Longevity Nation, is every once in a while you bump into somebody on a professional level who shares your same ideology. And, that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. So if everybody could please join me in giving a great big Dr. Glidden welcome to the one and the only pharmacist, Ben Fuchs. Pharmacist Ben, welcome aboard.
Dr. Glidden, I couldn't have said it better. You and I are season apart. I don't think I've ever heard you say one thing that I couldn't have said myself, and that's saying something. That's an honor, Dr. Glidden. Thank you.
Well, it's true, right? I mean, the world's a funny place, and it reminds me, quite frankly, I'm reminded of the Harry Potter books, right, where there's basically two groups of people in the world. Now, I know it's all fiction, but it's a good metaphor.
It's a very good metaphor.
There are the muggles, the people that just have no magic in their life whatsoever, and then there's the people that do. And it seems that the people that are drawn to longevity at least have open minds and some type of intellectual strength, and it's a great privilege to talk to you. So tell people your story. Tell Longevity Nation your story, Pharmacist Ben, because I'm not sure very many people know it. Because, I mean, let's be honest, right? Let's put our cards right on the table. You would think that the last person in the world who would be attracted to holistic medicine would be a pharmacist. Well, what's up with that?
Well, let me tell you something. When I first heard Dead Doctors Don't Lie, I'll tell you the story how I heard it back in the late 90s, I was blown away because Dr. Wallach was saying things that only pharmacists knew. he was saying things about liquid nutrition and about colloidal minerals and about the basis for disease being nutritional deficiency and chondroitin and glucosamine and using cartilage. And these were fundamental ideas that we learned in pharmacy school that I had never heard anybody but a pharmacist talk about. I hadn't even really heard a lot of pharmacists talking about it, but these were ideas that we learned in pharmacy school. And when I heard Dr. Wallach talk about this, my ears, my bionic ears poked right up, and I got really into listening to what Dr. Wallach was doing. Now, I should preface all this by saying that in pharmacy school, believe it or not, Doc, a lot of folks don't realize this, but in pharmacy school, we actually do study nutrition, except we study vitamins and minerals and the mighty 90 essential nutrients as if they were as if they were medicine. In other words, we study the medicinal properties of vitamins, the medicinal properties of minerals. In addition to that, we study deficiency diseases like arthritis, or I should say degenerative diseases like arthritis and osteoporosis and autoimmunity. We study these kinds of pathologies as if they were nutritional deficiencies. So we, on the one hand, study nutrients as if they were medicines, and on the other hand, we are trained in the idea that there are, at the core of all degenerative diseases, some kind of nutritional deficiency. And when I graduated pharmacy school, I was blown away by the fact that none of these ideas were being promoted at Kmart or Walgreens or Walmart or the various pharmacies that I was working at. In fact, there's a disincentive to promoting those kinds of ideas because of the profit margin that's in prescription drugs. And I should also tell you that when I was in pharmacy school, I was trained in skincare, and I never really worked in a pharmacy. Well, like in naturopathy, I'm sure you had internship hours, right?
Yeah.
You guys probably had right? So we had internship hours in pharmacy school. And I never worked in a drugstore on my internship hours because I was working in the Blistex lab. It turns out that at the University of Colorado, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Doc, but the University of Colorado, in the basement of the pharmacy school, which is now the chemistry building, the Blistex research facility was located where all the Blistex products were developed, and that's because Dr. Tony Jones, the guy who invented Blistex, was actually a professor, a retired professor by the time I was in school at the School of Pharmacy. He was a professor, a medicinal chemistry professor, as well as a pharmacognosy professor. We studied herbs, and he also did some pharmaceutics, et cetera. But by the time I went to pharmacy school, he was simply in the lab. And one day I was walking through the basement, my freshman year, walking through the basement of the School of Pharmacy. I stumbled into his lab. I went in there. I started talking to him. I didn't really know who he was. He asked me to be his research assistant for the next 4 years. I was in the Blistex lab getting all my internship hours, and I never really knew what the drugstore world was like. I never knew what the pharmacy world was like from a real world perspective. I knew what it was from an academic perspective. When I went out to work in the drugstores, I was absolutely floored by the toxic poisons that were being dispensed as medicine.
Now hold on to that thought, Pharmacist Ben. Hold on to that thought, Pharmacist Ben. It's a tough heartbreak coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. Be very excited. Stick around. Much more to come with Pharmacist Ben when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health. Welcoming you back. And if you like my show, you're going to love Pharmacist Ben's show. It airs Monday to Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time, 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time. That's 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 9 to 10 a.m. Mountain Time, and 11 to noon East Coast Time right here on the Genesis Communication Network. It is called The Bright Side with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Check it out, Monday to Friday, 10 to 11 Central Time. So welcome back, Pharmacist Ben. So here's the deal, right? So you go through pharmacy school, you get your degree as a pharmacist, and you're a little naive about the real world and about the overarching relationship between money and big pharma and the way that medicine's introduced to people in this country. And so what happened to you when you figured all of this out?
A year or so, and I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was poisoning America, especially old people and children, and it was horrifying. So I started to talk to people about probiotics. That was the first thing I started to talk to people about. And then essential fatty acids and vitamin A, things that we learned in pharmacy school, things that I was always into working out and exercising and somewhat into nutrition, so things that I knew. And Kmart didn't like that, and they ended up firing me, and I ended up being an unemployed pharmacist. So what I did, those were the glory days of pharmacy, so it wasn't hard to find a job. So I built myself I started myself a little business exploiting the understandings that I learned from Dr. Jones in skincare. I started a compounding pharmacy, and I started to develop skincare products that featured nutritional skincare products. And then I started dispensing and utilizing and studying nutrition for the skin. And so I developed an expertise, and I developed a pretty healthy little business of my own. It was just myself and a partner at the time, dispensing skincare products, formulating skincare products, and using nutritional supplements to support the skin, and using nutritional ingredients in the skincare products. As these products started to work, and as these concepts started to work, I actually had the opportunities in my pharmacy to do clinicals. In essence, I would give people vitamin E and see what happened to their skin. I give people essential fatty acids and kind of watch the results. And so I developed this kind of personal, hands-on understanding of the power of nutrition for helping the skin. But then what I found was not only were skincare issues resolving themselves, dry skin was disappearing, eczema was disappearing, psoriasis that people had their whole lives was going away, acne was disappearing. But on top of all of that, people were losing weight. They weren't eating as much. You sound familiar, right? They weren't eating as much. This is the mid-'90s that I'm seeing this stuff. So I decided I'm going to go out and talk to people about this, and I started doing talks in the Denver area, and in my lab, in my pharmacy, and in the Denver area, I started doing talks. And then I started getting these tapes in the mail. This was about 1997 now. I started getting these tapes in the mail, right? Dead doctors don't lie. And I got probably a tape every 3 days, and I didn't really think too much of it. I just stuck it in the drawer. And one day I decided, I don't know why, but I decided I'm going to listen to this tape. And I put the tape in, and I am just absolutely floored, just jaw-dropping, because this guy is right on. Yeah. Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Wallach. And everything he was saying was right on. He was saying things I knew about from pharmacy school. He was saying things I knew about. I learned about. I was experiencing the last 4 or 5 years. So I just started listening to this guy's tape over and over and over again. And I almost like I was, when I was doing my talks, I was sounding like Dr. Wallach. And one day I'm in the gym, and I'm talking to a friend of mine. I say, yeah, I'm listening to this tape. Great tape. Dead doctors don't lie. I said, oh, I know Dr. Wallach. This was 1997, right? Longevity is American Longevity. Is, I don't know, it's probably 2,000 people in the whole operation. He's like, I know Dr. Wallach. He comes here all the time. I'm like, are you kidding me? Can I meet him? You know, I want to see the guy. And so, did I ever tell you this story, Peter?
No, never.
And I said, yeah, can I meet him? He said, sure. Next time he comes in. So sure enough, a couple months later, I'm standing in my pharmacy. Look through the window, my clear glass windows that I had, and there is Robert Snook walking with Dr. Wallach. I didn't know that was Dr. Wallach. I'd never seen a picture of him, but it was Dr. Wallach. He came in and hit it off. And because I'd been listening to his tape, he probably thought he was talking to his doppelganger, you know, his alter ego. Because I was repeating back the stories. I was telling about selenium and talking about nutritional deficiencies at the core of everything. And next thing I know, he's asking me to do his radio show. And so for almost 10 years probably, I did his radio show. I traveled around, talked about longevity, and I promoted the company. And let me tell you something, Dr. Glidden. What you said earlier, when you opened the program, was so spot on about how longevity people are open-minded people. They're salt-of-the-earth people. I call them hippies. And I mean hippies, not Grateful Dead, you know, taking drugs, driving around in minivan hippies. I mean hippies who are skeptical about the party line, who are cynical about what they're being told and want evidence. They want things to be proven to themselves. They don't just listen to people because people are authorities. There tend to be a little bit on the skeptical side, and they also have another thing in common. I noticed, Dr. Glidden, this is since 1997. I've been seeing the same kinds of personality characteristics in people who are in longevity. In addition to not buying into the party line, the Fox News kind of mindset that the masses of people have, they're also very good people. They're very kind people. They're very helpful people, and they really want to make a difference. They're really motivated to make a difference. And this has been a theme, and I believe this is why longevity is so successful, is because throughout the 17 years that I've been with the company, it has attracted a type of personality that wants to make a difference in the world. You know what I'm saying, Peter?
I do.
That's the one thing, wouldn't you say that's the one thing that everybody from the grassroots all the way up to the big shots have in common, is they want to make the world a better place. And yes, you're going to make money, but you know what? The money doesn't even come close to what you'll the kind of joy that you get when you see somebody off of their medicine that the doctor said they're going to be on the rest of their life. When you see them lose 150 pounds. When you see them get out of wheelchairs, Peter, how many people have you and I seen get out of wheelchairs?
Too many to count.
Too many to count, right? It's like John of God. It's like those old those tent shows they used to do. Except this is real, because at the end of the day, Peter, we're not sick. We're starving. We're missing the raw material. If you don't have gas, and this is a bit simplistic because the body's more complicated than a car, and vitamins and nutrients, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, are more complicated than gasoline, but that's basically the concept. You're not going to run your car without gas, right?
Yeah, I know. And you would think, right, that this would be such a common sense thing for people to understand.
For the life of me, Dr. Glidden, I cannot figure out why it is a hard sell to some people.
I know.
What am I missing? What am I missing?
I don't know. I think it's the Muggle, wizard thing. I hate to boil it down to such simplistic terms, but you know what the other cool thing about this from a humanistic point of view is? Right. Even the people that come into longevity just for the business, right? Even the people that come into longevity just for the business, after a year that they've been in the business, and they see what's happening to people in their downline with their health, their jaws are on the floor, and they become converts to helping people, and it becomes like a virus that spreads through the community, and now everybody's got it. It's the feel-good factor that is a part and parcel of being in touch with the truth. And
it's a crusade. It's a crusade that we're all part of. And I know exactly what you're saying, because the business is so viable now. There's so much money to be made if you do it correctly that it does attract people sometimes just for the business side of it. But once they see people getting out of wheelchairs and losing 150 pounds, it's hard not to get on board, right? It's hard not to get on board from that way. You got to be a real cold, not to get on board in that way. And so with longevity, you hit the nail on the head. You get financial wealth, you get healthy, and you get wealthy as well. And that is the way, Peter, it should be. Don't you think? When we take care of people's needs, we get our financial needs met as well. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
That is the way it's supposed to be, right? Because it's like that old saying, right? And it's an old saw now, and Kevin Costner took advantage of it, right? But build it and they will come. All that you need to do with longevity, the only thing that anybody needs to do to have a successful longevity business is tell the truth and point.
Yeah.
That's all they have to do. There's no upsell here. There's no obfuscation. There's no conflation. There's no nonsense. You just tell people the truth and point, and the rest takes care of itself, because the only thing that we do is support and promote the body's ability to fix itself. And when you get behind that juggernaut, there's no turning back, and everything in life changes for the better. And I mean, it's just a remarkable process to be a part of.
Peter, it's because the body's doing the work. It's because the divine force is doing the work. You're not doing the work. We don't do anything. The body's doing the work, and this is the distinction that I make between the so-called alternative model and the medical model. The medical model says we're going to fix you, that we're smarter than the body. We're going to override the body. We're going to stick things in it if we have to. We're going to chemically manipulate it if we have to. We're going to cut things out if we have to. But darn it, we're in charge here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I think a perfect metaphor for that is communism, right? Because that's what communist dictatorships do. Yeah, the state knows what's best for the people.
Well, that's better. Yeah,
that's how the MDs think.
That's right. The authoritarian trip. That's why I say, when I say hippies, I mean people who don't buy into the authoritarian trip. They want evidence. They want to see what's happening for themselves. And it is a democratic idea. And Dr. Wallace is all about that, actually. So it makes perfect sense. There is an egalitarian element to this where we can all participate on our own without an authority or a white coat or some doctor muttering in gibberish, some kind of disease state or protocol that we're supposed to do and we don't understand. This is about common sense. Your body cannot do its work if it doesn't have the nutrients, and your body doesn't have the nutrients. It's like Aristotelian logic. You know, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. It's basically, if your body needs the stuff to do its work and you don't have the stuff, your body's not going to be able to do its work, and it's as simple as that. And
so when given that situation, what's a better solution, to throw a drug at the problem or to just give the body what it needs?
Well, that's another thing about drugs that nobody talks about, Peter. If you are taking prescription drugs, you are depleting precious resources to detoxify and eliminate that poison that should be spent healing your body. So you take a deficient state, you take a body that's already compromised, and now you put an added burden on the body in terms of prescription drugs. You further deplete the body of nutrients. Of course, then you get sicker, and then you're on more drugs, and you end up on this vicious downward spiral. And this is not even going to show up in the side effects. This isn't going to show up in the toxic side effects, Peter. This is going to just simply be nutritional deficiencies that end up causing death that are attributed to the disease state. Nobody's going to think that the prescription drugs, and I'm talking sometimes a dozen different prescription drugs, Peter. I'm not kidding you. Sometimes 20 different prescription drugs that people are on. You're going to tell me that's not going to cause a major depletion of B vitamins and magnesium and glutathione and glutamine and all the amino acids and enzymes that are responsible for detoxification? When we say drugs are poisons, Dr. Glidden, this is not rhetorical and poetic. This is literal. They are detoxified by the exquisite, intelligent, brilliant detoxification system in the liver, and that costs nutrients. So
twin sons of different mothers. You're hearing it right here live on Fire Your MD now, ladies and gentlemen. Very pumped up to have pharmacist Ben with us. Stick around. We're finishing up when we come back. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD now. Birds of a feather flock together, ladies and gentlemen. Check out pharmacist Ben's radio show right here on GCN, the Genesis Communication Network. That's GCNlive.com, GCNlive.com. The Bright Side with pharmacist Ben Fuchs, Monday to Friday, 10 to 11 Central Time. So, Ben, we have 5 minutes left here.
I want to give you some kudos for 5 minutes, man. You are doing a hell of a job, Peter Glidden. You're doing an amazing job. It's an honor to know you, and it's an honor to be associated with you in this great cause and great mission of ours.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and I remember back in the day when, my parents were, God rest their souls, they've both passed on now, but one of the things that was great about the house that I grew up in was the motto of the family was, live and let live. And whatever you want to do, just go for it and do it, as long as you're not hurting somebody else or being a burden to other people, right? Just live and let live. So a lot of kudos go there to my family because, when I told them in the early 80s that I wanted to be a naturopathic doctor, I know that they probably thought, what the heck is that? And this kid's crazy, and oh my God, it's another one of the fads, right? But they let me do it. They didn't stand in my way. And I remember in the early 80s, when I was a freshman at naturopathic medical school, it was naturopathy was like the red-headed stepchild that nobody really wanted to, take responsibility for. You talked about it in hushed tones and at dinner parties and at family gatherings. Always, is he a real doctor or what's up with that? But naturopathy and holistic medicine has become a lot more sexy. It's become a lot more, it's not mainstream yet, but it's much more accepted, generally speaking. But I remember, man, back in the day, not so much. I know, right? And from my point of view, given my 25-year now history with science-based, clinically verified naturopathic therapeutics, it's really, it feels, I have to tell you, be very honest, it feels very good to be with Longevity Nation and, get at least a modicum of respect that members of my profession were wanting for decades and decades and decades. So I'm very happy to be here.
Well, being a naturopath is now accepted in standard hospitals. I noticed the cancer clinics have naturopaths, and you can write prescriptions too, can't you, Dr. Glidden?
Yeah, 17 states we have prescriptive rights for about 90% of legend drugs, yeah.
Now, what's your take on that? What's your take on naturopaths writing for medicine?
Well, the only good thing about that is, and this is a real slippery slope, and the naturopathic doctor, Dr. Bruce Milliman, who's out of Seattle, was one of my instructors, and, we're colleagues, and I call him up and we refer to each other, a couple times a year. So I know the rationale that moved that ball forward, and the rationale in part was, well, if you can't prescribe a drug legally, then neither can you recommend nor give advice to people to come off of the drug legally. So initially, part of the impetus for having prescriptive rights for naturopaths was so that we could legally and unfettered help people to get off of prescription drugs safely and appropriately. But
that's very cool.
It's backfired.
How so? How do you
well, in the last couple of years, and it's my intention, I don't know if these guys are going to come on board this radio show and talk to me about this, but there are a number of us in the naturopathic community who are of the belief that naturopathy is not being taught in the naturopathic medical schools anymore, and basically what the students are being trained to be is physician's assistants. Right?
Oh, no, that's terrible. Is it
it's this whole integrative medical, green allopathy thing, and it's just, it's depressing when I think about it.
The Leviathan always co-opts the good ideas. It always takes the good ideas. I love the 60s commercials for, Steppenwolf, Born to be Wild, for Depends.
I know. Isn't that one of life's greatest ironies? Pharmacist Ben, man, we have to do this more often, maybe once a month. I'm thinking once a month I should have you as a regular guest. Just not enough time. I appreciate you very much, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Here he goes, ladies and gentlemen, pharmacist Ben Fuchs. The Bright Side with Ben, Monday to Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thanks so much, buddy, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the future. Stick around, folks. Hour 2 coming up, and we're going right to the phones. Teresa in Kentucky is first.